he was Brücke. The most surprising, you cannot imagine what it must have meant for a Jewish boy to be admitted to the university without the fuss and fanfare. If he had been born 10 years earlier, even I think 5 years earlier, if I'm not mistaken, it would not have been possible. But the Jews were emancipated despite all the anti-Semitism to which he was exposed. They were emancipated. They could travel around. His father still had to get a special permission to stay a night or a week in a place outside of his birthplace. And his son was already admitted to the university, and not only that, he was admitted to a special institute, and he was permitted to make research, write papers, and his papers were published. It sounds like an unbelievable story, really, from slums to riches. And the question that might have plagued Freud was, will it be with me as it was with Macbeth, who was also promised so much by three forces of the world yonder, and I will run into a catastrophe, or will I achieve my goals? I would like to read to you the quotation from Max and Moritz. I got my notes a little bit mixed up, but I hope I will find it. Excuse me. I have difficulty in reading it, which is like, could you read?
Which one are you looking for?
Yes, next. Who? Yes, please.
Yes. Max and Moritz were boys who, quote, who instead of, through wise teaching, become devoted to good things, oft times laughed about them, and in secret made fun of them. Yes, to do evil. Yes, for that one is ready. To tease people, to torment animals, to steal apples, pears, plums. This indeed is more agreeable and also more convenient than to sit tight on a chair in church or school.
And their fate is terrible. They are grinded, and the corn is devoured by some sickness. So here you have the identification with Macbeth, and followed by the identification with Max and Moritz, who took such a terrible ending. Wow. What went on there? He was so successful, Brücke accepted him, and he knew that he can continue there, and still he had this terrible feeling of what might happen to him. You may say it was banter, and there was some banter involved, of course, but the banter betrayed a subterranean, gloomy situation. About the kings, I can give an explanation. There was really hubris at hand, because the galleys of the third paper, which I mentioned about he was waiting, in the 5th section, Freud writes, I must accuse myself. And in German, ich muss mich anklagen, that's a nuance stronger than to accuse oneself. That I claimed the third paper was a continuation of the second paper on the spinal ganglion of the fish, and there he gave the full biography and reported some further progress of his research. And in the fifth section he says, I must excuse myself that I claim that my findings, the description of those ganglion cells, is original with me, and that I am the first one who saw them. A man with the name of Kuchin, a Russian professor, excuse me, had published drawings of that of those cells about 10 years earlier. And he goes in quite song and dance to explain it. It was a language he could not know, and felt evidently very much distressed. So the connection with the kings would be that those papers who might go into the world as his progeny will be shown up by somebody as being a plagiarism. That it means the kings come from a different father. His papers, which are published under his name, really came from a different author. But why people would explain a little bit this reference to that one scene, but the identification with Macbeth went much further, because 22 years later he wrote to Pfister, I have one wish to die in harness, and again he quotes Macbeth. And so as a young man he was afraid that he will have the fate of Macbeth. In his mature years he hoped he will have it. And as you know, this wish unfortunately was not fulfilled. He died such a difficult and agonizing death. But I think that on that afternoon when he wrote to what's his name, Knopfmacher, he perhaps thought that now he works under the aegis, the tutelage, the guidance of a man. Will he be, of a famous man, Brücke? Will he be able to do it on his own? And I'm sure he was very ambitious in those years. And I even think that he might have had the feeling that he will not continue Brücke's work, that he will go in his researches to deeper levels than Brücke was able. Because I want to refer to a paper which is not too well known and was translated in English and attributed to the year 1905, where it didn't make any sense at all. And Professor Rosenzweig found out that it was published in 1890. It was really the first paper, the first psychological paper he published. And it is a magnificent paper, a paper of a large horizon, in which I exaggerate only very little, claimed that all sickness is caused by emotions. He doesn't go that far, but says that in all sicknesses, emotions are operative, and some are caused by emotions. And the paper even contains the first reference to transference, because he says if the patient does not have a good relationship to his physician, he will not recover.